Hello everyone and welcome back to Sleep Pharmacy. This is our 14th episode. I'm your host, Dr. Chizuko Nakayama, a pharmacist and a researcher of traditional herbs. Tonight, I would like to share the unexpected story of a plant you see every day, the clover. In Japan, we call the white clover Shirotsumekusa. Many of you might have childhood memories of weaving these little white flowers into crowns or necklaces. Personally, I wasn't the most patient child, so my flower necklaces were always a bit messy, with flowers tied loosely far apart. Years later, I tried to pass this tradition down to my daughter when she was small. However, while weaving a clover necklace for her, I accidentally shared too much scientific information. I told her about the nitrogen-fixing bacteria attached to the roots. Even worse, I told her a memory from my childhood. I grew up near a cattle barn, and massive patches of lush clover always grew directly around the fresh cow dung. Naturally, after hearing that story, my daughter found the necklace completely disgusting. Even though our box was perfectly clean, I forced onto her neck for a photo, but she certainly wasn't smiling. I have a habit of saying a bit too much. I did the same thing with red spider lilies, warning my kids about their severe toxicity right before trying to take a nice family photo. Now, let's look at how this Western plant arrived in Japan. The clover icon is famous worldwide, especially as a suit in playing cards. In Japan, it is actually an alien species that arrived during the Edo period. While it was officially imported as livestock feed during the Meiji era, its first arrival was much more accidental. During the Edo period, trading ships from the Netherlands brought precious glass object known as gyamam. To prevent these fragile grasses from shuttling during the rough ocean voyage, the traders packed the crates tightly with dried clover. In Japanese, the word tsumeru means to pack or stuff. Because it was stuffed inside the crates as a natural cushion, it earned the name tsumekusa, the packing grass. It was literally the samurai era's version of plastic bubble wrap. Later, it escaped into the wild, and today it grows everywhere across the nation. Next, let's explore the two common varieties you see today. Right by the riverbank near my house, there is a large patch of classic white clover, and right next to it, a cluster of red clover, also known as murasaki tsumekusa or akatsumekusa. Red clover grows much taller, features large pinkish purple flowers, and has a slightly different leaf alignment. Moving on, let's talk about the famous four-leaf clover from a researcher's perspective. We all love finding a lucky four-leaf clover or five-leaf clover for good fortune. However, as a scientist, I look at them with a slightly skeptical eye. Biologically speaking, these extra leaves are the result of a genetic mutation. A natural mutation means something caused an error in the plant's DNA. Therefore, if I find a specific spot where four-leaf clovers are popping up like crazy, I automatically wonder if the local soil might be contaminated with pollutants or chemicals. If you find a rare four-leaf clover in a pristine, untouched forest, please treasure it. But if you find hundreds of them in a single concrete ditch, you might want to consider the environmental health of that soil. Next, let's analyze the medicinal properties and the chemical defense of white clover. White clover has a history in folk medicine for reducing inflammation and acting as a mild diuretic. Interestingly, it also edible as a vegetable. However, I do not recommend eating it raw in large amounts because clover naturally contains cyanogenic glycosides. This is precursor of chemical that turns into cyanides, the famous poison often featured in the detective anime like Case Closed. In nature, when an insect bites the leaf, the plant releases this poison as a self-defense mechanism to stop the pest. Surprisingly, recent research shows that clover growing in busy urban cities have actually forgotten this survival instinct. Because there are fewer pests in the city, urban clovers contain very little of these cyanide compounds. So the clovers in your local city park might actually be perfectly safe to eat raw. Personally, I like using clover leaves for cooking because they don't lose their beautiful green color when heated. Sometimes I press a fresh clover leaf directly onto the surface of a pancake while baking it. It creates a beautiful, lovely design. You can also fry the flower heads as tempura or lightly blanch them for a salad. They have a subtle, sweet flavor that tastes faintly like green peas. Moving on, let's look at the immense health benefits of red clover. Clovers belong to the legume or bean family. Just like soybeans, both white and red clover contain natural compounds called isoflavones. However, red clover contains a significantly higher concentration of these compounds. In fact, red clover is packed with phytoestrogens, which mimic the female hormone estrogen in the human body. Because of this powerful chemical profile, European herbalists have long used red clover as a premium wellness tea or supplement. It is highly effective for relieving menopausal symptoms and supporting bone density as women age. From a medical standpoint, the red variety is far more potent than the white. It also makes a beautiful dried flower decoration for your home. Next, as a pharmacist, I must share the critical piece of medical data regarding isoflavones. When you consume isoflavone from red clover or soybeans, your gut microbiome must process them. Your intestinal bacteria convert the compound into a highly active beneficial form called E. coli. Shockingly, statistics show that only about 50% of the Japanese population possess the specific gut bacteria required to activate this compound. If you didn't eat many fermented soy products during your childhood, you might lack this specific microbe altogether. Fortunately, recent data suggests that you can actively encourage these microbes, often called yeast bacteria, to grow. By consistently consuming dietary fiber alongside your soy or red clover intake, you provide the perfect nourishment for these beneficial bacteria to multiply. So do not give up. Consistency and fiber are keys to unlocking these hormonal health benefits. Finally, let's learn how to distinguish clover from its common lookalikes. The most frequent trap is a plant called Wood Sorrel or Katabami. While it also has 3 leaves, each individual leaf of Katabami is shaped like a perfect little heart. In contrast, true clover leaves are shaped like smooth teardrops, often featuring a faint white V-shaped pattern on the surface. Furthermore, Katabami is rich in oxalic acid. If you have ever had the kidney stone or urinary tract stone, you know that oxalates are the main culprit behind that intense pain. It is the same sour acid found in spinach, which is why we blanch spinach to remove it. However, in small amounts, Katabami is perfectly safe, and its sharp lemony sourness is quite refreshing. Another cousin is the Chinese milk veg, or renge. You often see entire fields covered in pink renge flowers before spring farming. Just like clover, renge forms symbiotic relationship with rhizobia, the root nodule bacteria I mentioned earlier. These incredible bacteria capture nitrogen from the air and fix it directly into the soil. Essentially, they act as a natural zero-waste fertilizer factory that enrich the land for future crop. While the flower looks similar to red clover, you can easily spot renge by its leaves, which look like a little green ladder with multiple small leaflets arranged in a row. To summarize tonight's journey, a humble weed that crossed the oceans as a protective cushion for delicate glassware has now become a familiar herb, providing natural healing right beneath our feet. This channel shares the surprising hidden facts of familiar plants from a pharmaceutical perspective, delivered quietly every week before you sleep. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a quick moment to hit the subscribe button before you swipe away and forget. Also, if you are listening on Spotify, please follow our channel. Tonight, Please sip some warm tea, think of the green fields, and have a deeply relaxing rest. Thank you for staying awake to listen until the end. Have a peaceful night. Good night.